Welcome to Hope, a channel to highlight stories where it's clear to see where sin abounded, grace abounds more. Check out today's episode.
Hi, my name is Jamila Camarillo, married to Julian Camarillo, mother to the other Julian Camarillo. I have a long history of addiction. I've been an addict for over 10 years. When I met Chandler, it was because we needed help, because we were in our addiction and we weren't doing well. So Chandler, he offered help, but he wanted us to get clean. You know, I guess he wanted Julian to continue searching for God. But for me, I wasn't a Christian. I didn't know anything about Christianity. That wasn't my life. It was very complex for me to understand, like, why is this man trying to help us, and what does he gain out of helping us? He bought us groceries. He took us to go buy groceries. It was right after he got his stomach surgery. I don't know how much pain he was in it. It seemed like he was really going out of his way to help me and Julian, because we definitely needed groceries. He wasn't giving us money or anything like that, because he knew that, we had ongoing addictions, but he did get us like essentials, things that we needed, food and hygiene. We really, really needed it at the time. But I still was, in my addict mind, and I didn't know what, his real motives were, because he actually tried to get us to go to Detox. And now, if I knew what all of this would have meant then, I definitely would have, pushed for it a lot sooner. That's my only regret, is that I didn't come here like sooner, because we could have prevented a lot of other things, like us going to jail and everything. But then again, I guess it's not really what God had in store for us. So maybe everything just happened the way that it needed to happen. He was trying to take us to a detox, and I wasn't, everything that you could think of, that I could think of to, stop me from going to detox that day did. But really, I think the center of it all was just me still wanting to be in my addiction, and the fact that was going to have to end, if I went as a detox, was like, I guess it was frightening to me more than anything, because I'm so used to that lifestyle that, I couldn't see anything past that. I couldn't see a sober life. I couldn't see a Christian life, So, and I honestly didn't even understand that, this was like, the basis of this was all God. I didn't, I had no comprehension for that still. It took time, I guess, because then afterwards we ended up going to jail. And when we went to jail, of course, everyone goes to jail. Everybody needs help once they go to jail, Well, from the conversations or the little bit of talking or messages that me and Julian could get across to each other, because Chandler was kind of in the middle facilitating, messages for us, because he was in jail and I was in jail, but in the midst of that, the main thing that Julian kept stressing to me was that, that he was going to pursue God and remain clean. And whether or not I chose to, you said, I don't want to do this alone, but, if I have to, I will, I didn't really take him serious as far as him being, Christian, and I didn't know what all of this meant, So he was in jail, and when I got bonded out, I still in my head, I wasn't too sure about being, clean. I guess I still didn't understand the God part of it all until, it really took some time, and I'm guessing it really had to be like the Holy Spirit, just weighing on my heart and everything, because I don't know that I could have done it. I'm sure I couldn't have done it by my own, skills or merits or anything like that. By my own strength, I couldn't have done it. I still, to this day, don't really know how I managed to get through that time period, staying sober. Me being an addict, I could still think, oh, I could do drugs and get away with it, or, keep secrets and he won't find out, whatever. Or I could just be like, oh, I'm not going to take him serious. But a large part of it, me pushing through it, had to be Chandler. Chandler eliminated all of the obstacles that would keep me, in a lifestyle of addiction because all the things like, the things that we need, the essential things like shelter, clothes, and food, those were eliminated. And then the other aspect of it was the fact that, I actively started pursuing methadone. I got on methadone while I was in jail, and that helped me remain sober too, because, once I was on methadone, I didn't have to, worry about, withdrawals from, the opiates and all of that. So, and the other thing was that, like Chandler, the whole Hope Prison Ministries, there's a lot of, things that they provide, transportation and stuff like that. And so basically anywhere that I even needed to go, I was able to get to. So just all of the obstacles that were, keeping me remaining in a cycle of addiction, Chandler just kind of like, made it to where there was no excuse or reason why I could just stay actively being on drugs, because these things weren't stopping me or making me, go back and even be around people that I used to.
If you're liking this content, don't miss out on future episodes. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications. Now back to the show.
Yeah, because I ended up meeting with Chandler when I got out. He actually was the one that suggested I go to an Oxford house, which is a sober living house. It's a really good environment for addicts because, there's all the things, the structure of it that they have in play. It makes you, it definitely reminds you of your addiction. And then there's so much accountability that, you can't just get by continuing drugs around, a house full of people that they know all of the signs, and they will be really quick to, point them out or do whatever to keep their home environment, clear of drugs, because potentially if one person relapses, the whole house can go down that road. Even if the addictions are different, addiction has there's no, it doesn't discriminate for sure. Definitely. So, yeah, he actually suggested I go to an Oxford house, which I'd heard about Oxford houses while I was in prison before. But, yeah, I ended up finding an Oxford house, getting an interview with them. And then once they accepted me, he was there when I went to my, interview, and then he paid for me to stay there, and basically as long as I was being, clean and sober, that was the start, and then he had the curriculum, and the curriculum is actually where, my eyes were really getting open to, God and to all the things that I guess I was lacking before, because the curriculum is just it's a good basis for living and thinking and how you should, carry out your life. Obviously, the house that we live in, that's a service that Hope Prison Ministries provided. My car, I guess, to Hope Prison Ministries, that's how I get to, because I guess before that was something that came up because I had a lot of doctor's appointments and stuff. And, yeah, that, and then the gas, the Hope Prison Ministries gave me, before I had my car, they gave me transportation to the methadone clinic. You have to go every single day. It's early, they open at 5 o'clock in the morning to 11, and you have to go to get your medication. Mm-hmm. And you have to go, daily until you can pass UAs and get it down or whatever, because it's not something that you can just have at home 24/7. It's not a prescription you can just go pick up. It's something that you have to go to a clinic. There's a limited amount of places that you can even go to, so it's not just that easy, and I know the getting rides there was kind of like a big deal. I never would have pursued staying on methadone if it was up to me going there on my own every day. Yeah, I would not have stayed getting my medication to even stay clean, Yeah. So that was but the fact that they provided a ride for me to go get my methadone every time I needed to, that kind of just helped me keep pushing forward to remain sober. They did provide transportation for me to even go find a job because, you know, I had rides to go look places. And then when I got interviews at the places that I went to go look, I had a ride to go do my interview and everything. So that was like a big, like I said, the whole transportation thing was like a big, it kind of eliminated. That's one of the, you know, they just made it to where everything, all the obstacles were just eliminated. So there was really no excuse for me to just be like, oh, I'm going to stay using and because, you know, like there was no reason, because they make it to where you can't, you know, you just can't sit stagnant and absolutely do nothing, you know, because everything is just like really accessible. You know, all your needs are met, you know, whether it's food, like groceries, transportation, you know, whatever. And then after the fact, after he see us being sober and everything for, you know, a while, then he helped us, you know, with a vehicle, and then he helped, you know, provide gas and all that stuff. It's awesome. Yeah.